Episode of STEM in Stilettos. I ask you, do you ever feel like you need to become a different person to fit into the mold of success? Today, we are going to discuss with Jane Novak, an author and energy expert, as well as a self realization coach, on how you can break free of those expectations of other people's types of success and step into authenticity as your new authority. Before we go down that road, though, I would like to invite you to get to know your own leadership style a little bit better. Grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, and go to Leadership Pitfall Quiz. That's Leadership Pitfall Quiz. And it takes about 60 seconds to go through all the questions and to get the answer to what is your leadership animal and the pitfalls that come along with that particular leadership style. So take a few minutes to do that as we go through the show here so that you can play along when we discuss Jane's results. So, with that out of the way, Jane Novak, published author, energy expert, and self realization coach. She is here to help you break free from toxic relationships, to reclaim your energy and step into your true power. She has expertise in energy healing and has helped thousands of empaths with emotional mastery and boundary setting. She guides women through deep transformational work, releasing past wounds, dissolving fear based patterns, and reconnecting with their inner strength, which is where your authenticity and your empowerment comes from. Her mission is to empower women to trust their intuition and embrace their feminine energy, tap into confidence, and rise to their highest potential so they can see their goddess nature and potential, as well as rock out the success you've been wanting in your life without selling your own self out. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Zofia. I'm very glad we reconnected. So excited to be here.
I am super excited to have you here. I can hardly talk. I'm so excited to have you here. So I have noticed on my own journey, and perhaps listeners, you have also noticed on your journey, that as you start to step into your power, the people around you, especially the people who know you best, will often react in a way that's resistant, that try to hold you where you are, that sometimes they react a little immaturely when you do things like assert yourself, say no when it's appropriate for you to say no, even when you say it politely and firmly. So why does this happen, Jane? Give us a little insight into why the people who love us best are not always our best cheerleaders.
Such a good question to begin with. I love this. You know what I noticed? It's true that boundaries will intimidate people. And I guess nobody taught us from the beginning that setting boundaries is a very healthy thing, you know? And we were growing up mostly with people pleasing patterns and to be liked,
Yeah.
to fit in.
And I
Um,
think, especially as women, that is drilled into us. This is, I think, in many ways, a very uniquely female experience.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely very specific conditioning for women, whereas, nurturers, the caretakers, and just trying to make everything better, in
Yeah.
general, beautify it, make it softer, make it more beautiful. We just always find a way to, on one hand, we want to make this better. On the other hand, we put ourselves on a back burner, believing that we don't see our value from with the conditioning,
Yeah.
when
Well,
we,
I know I was taught to like put my needs last, right?
right.
If I'm a good little girl, I pay attention to what my sister needs and what my mom needs and what my friend needs. And then if there's something left over, that's for me.
Right.
And it's
Right.
kind of like budgeting. If you save last, guess what? You have no savings.
Absolutely. Yes. And why it's happening, I think, big part of it is due to conditioning of centuries and centuries of women feeling trapped and feeling like they have to be in service of somebody else. And they have to provide that environment, that energy that is so amazing for everyone, but then they put themselves back without realizing that they are on many level giving birth, not like if you choose to have children, let's say, but you giving birth on so many amazing way in the energy realm, creating environments, creating communities, creating warm atmosphere, all of that. And we just didn't see the value. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think it's valuable to create those kind of spaces, but I think the thing that we're not clued into a lot of times as women is you don't have to sell yourself out to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and the people around you, back to the original question, why
Mhm.
is it that they can't see that that's valuable, that you're putting on your own oxygen mask first?
Uh, because what I notice is that the conditioning is so strong is there's fear. There's fear is that you're gonna leave me. You're gonna do something else. I'm gonna be on my own, and I'm afraid because I'm attached to you.
Mhm.
There's some direct or indirect, subconscious or unconscious attachment that you're supposed to be there for me. And if you're growing, if you're succeeding, that means you're out, and I
Yeah.
will be alone. And that's fear to be alone, fear of, which is primary fear of death if we dig
Yeah,
deeper, right? But that
exactly.
fear of being
Fear of
alone.
abandonment, aka
Mhm.
death on the side
Yeah,
of the road, alone and naked. Yes.
right, right.
um, yeah. I sometimes laugh at heavy things because it helps to like lift them up and move them out.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I
that
think that's the
that's
only
why I
thing.
chuckle at that image to kind of take some of the energy out of it that's so heavy and
Mhm.
move it along. So what has been your background in science, technology, that sort of thing? A lot of folks out there are going to be like, this is STEM in stilettos. Where's the STEM coming in here?
I don't have specific scientific background, let me be upfront, but I work with a lot of women, including my path of understanding myself. How do I operate on many levels as a human being, as on the level of consciousness, on the level of energy? How is that impacting my life, the life of my family, of my children? And that really got me digging deeper and deeper. uh, Self-realization of who you are, and realizing what kind of patterns you have, the certain programmings that you're running from based on your way you grew up, conditioning, culture. If you become aware of all of that, including the structures in the world, how they try to kind of take your energy out, like give, 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 and
Mhm.
you just end up being drained, unfulfilled, unhappy, putting yourself on a back burner, and feeling small, that feeling of that vulnerability, that I'm not good enough. And then what you start doing is like, I have to prove myself. I have to prove
Yes.
I'm good enough, right? And that
Yeah.
is the biggest block that is holding you, especially women, because there's constant like, no, 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 look at me. I'm good enough. Like I
It's
have to prove something.
one of the biggest lies we get told. And I think it's at the root of one of the issues that causes that pay gap between men and women, right? There's
Mhm.
been a lot of talk in the news about, well, the diversity and equity initiatives going away. What's this going to mean? And in many ways, while there are valuable aspects to DEI and the clarity that comes with how people are hiring on people and choosing to promote people, it never addressed some of the primary reasons that there is that pay gap between men and women. And one of them is this I have to prove my value to you brainworms that we as women have. Because if
Yeah.
you look at the difference in how a man accepts a job and a woman accepts a job, the guy gets the job offer and goes, Well, this is pretty good, but I think to match the marketplace, you need to provide me with a signing bonus, and you're actually like 5% below what market is. And he negotiates that thing. The
Mm-hmm.
woman is just happy she's chosen. Oh, I'm so grateful you chose me. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
validate your confidence in me as an employee. And then when review time comes around, whether that's after a 90-day trial or a year down the road, then I'll talk to you about getting a raise. Well, unfortunately, the way the systems are set up in many corporations, this is defeating because the guy who negotiated coming in is going to get a better package in terms of bonuses, in terms of his base salary, and he can move that needle farther during that initial negotiation than you will ever be able to move it in a salary increase down the road,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they cap those at like 3 to 5%, and you better be in the top end of it to get the upper end of that. And so just by skipping that opportunity to negotiate on the way in, and that
Mm-hmm.
goes back to this brainworm, you've put yourself behind the eight ball.
Yes, I would say.
Unknowingly, unconsciously
Mm-hmm.
put yourself behind the eight ball.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't think, for the most part, I'm speaking for males, they don't have these questions like, can I even do it? Am I good enough? Like, can I
Oh,
pull it off? Like
oh yeah.
it's not even crossing their mind. And in the woman's psyche, in the mind, there's always like these thoughts, like trains of thoughts constantly, especially if she doesn't feel worthy within. I like how you said, well, I've been chosen.
Mm,
You have to change that. I choose myself.
yes.
And once you choose yourself, then the whole narrative changes because you see the tremendous value of not necessarily proving by doing something, but I am. I am
Yes.
worthy. When you really feel it on cellular level and all levels in your life. And that's why a lot of women just run on masculine energy trying to prove I'm good enough, and
Yes.
imbalancing that good balance that can be masculine and feminine. And instead, they're just kind of like hunting that energy, and they lose themselves. They lose themselves. And from a female energy perspective, from a feminine energy perspective, it's about I am. Can you be in the place of I am worthy just
Yes.
because I am? Because for
Exactly.
man, I do, you're right. I do believe they don't need extensive training on that. And I worked with mostly women, and I could see that as well with my clients, like these little bugs, like you said, little worms. Man would not even cross these questions. They had
Yeah.
different questions they would come with me with, and women was like,
Absolutely.
well, can I really do it? And
Yeah.
the funny part, um, the truth is we always find a solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
The
just don't
women's are
see
the
it.
most amazing solvers out there,
Exactly.
honestly.
Exactly.
But here is one of the things. I did a bunch of research as I was preparing to put this show together, and the premise, and where are some of the roots of like the pay gap. This is one of the things I'm on a mission to shrink and eventually eliminate, is that pay gap. And some of the statistics that came forward for me are very interesting, because studies have been done, and women wait until they're almost 100%, if not 100% qualified for that next position before they reach for it. Men, on the other hand, and this goes back to they don't even worry about whether they can really do it or not, will apply at 50% qualified. 50%. Let that sink in for a second, ladies.
Yeah.
50%. The guy you're going up against is
Mhm.
only 50 to maybe 75% qualified for that job. You have stepped up at probably well in excess of 90% qualified. Um, and I want you to hold on to that the next time you're walking into an interview, and that little voice is back there going, well, are you really qualified? You are overqualified as far as that interviewer is concerned. We're going to put
That's
that in
beautiful. That's
perspective.
true.
You
Hmm.
are overqualified compared to what they're expecting to walk through that door.
Yeah. And when you really cultivate that and feel
Yeah.
it and know it about yourself, even when you walk into the room without saying a word, it's felt. It's felt on so
Absolutely.
many levels that just your presence, ladies, just your presence when you know your worth is powerful. And yes, it is intimidating as well. I've been there, but it's powerful. You will get a pushback at some point, but it's a sign only because you're not attached
Yeah.
to the opinions of others to justify you,
Oh,
to validate you.
I
You're
love
just
that
you.
I love that you mentioned the pushback. We watched the Super Bowl the other day, and there was a Nike commercial, and it's like, "You can't win, so just go win," was like the bottom line of this commercial is they're gonna criticize you, they're gonna call you not nice or not ladylike or whatever the thing
Mhm.
is, okay?
Yeah,
It's just that much noise. It has nothing to do with you, it has everything to do with them, so just go do the darn thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're not gonna win that battle, so don't even try. Just go out there and be amazing.
Yeah, and you do it for yourself. That changes
Yeah.
everything when you do it not for somebody else or prove it to somebody like, no, let me show them I got this. Give that energy all to yourself because that's where the power concentrates when you're like, whoop, you take it all the way back. And then you're not distributing your energy to people who are not even worthy, so to speak, or who are not on your team. So you're being very selective with your energetic presence.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
So, I know what we've talked about is, like, some really powerful, juicy stuff, and probably if you've got that voice in your head, it seems like a big ask. How do you ever even remotely get to that point, right? Because you've had decades of this, "Are you good enough? Prove yourself, put yourself last," entrainment that has come at you from all directions. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes with the best of intentions, right? Because your family raises you in the way that they feel will help you succeed and be the best that you can be in life. But the problem is they don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
And that's what we're here to discuss today. And that's what we will be discussing when we return from the break. How do we start to make these mind shifts? How do we start to embody that I am enough, that confidence that, you know what, I am the most qualified applicant you're going to see walk through the door today. I am the most qualified founder with the best business concept that you're going to see that you should be putting your VC money into, right? How do we own that? How do we wear that? So hang with us, and we will be right back from the break.
Oh, check it out, we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am here with the amazing and wonderful Jane Novak, and we were discussing some of the ways in which the pay gap and the opportunity gap between men and women expands in ways that DEI initiatives were never able truly to address. Because a lot of the differences exist between our ears. What goes
Mhm.
on in your mind is very different from what goes on in a guy's mind when we're looking at opportunities and moving forward and stepping into the world in a big way. So, what are some signs that a woman might be out of alignment with her true self and trying to like be the guy next to her instead of stepping into her truly powerful, authentic self?
Love this question. Well, the first one is she's exhausted. She's burnt out. Um, she may sleep just enough hours, but when she wakes up, she still feels like something is off. She feels unfulfilled. She feels stressed out to the level that it shows on her face, on the way she lives her life, on the choices that she makes. A lot of confusion, a lot of like almost like a brain fog, when you're out of alignment, out of that balanced feminine energy, so to speak, when you're mainly in your masculine. And I've been there as well.
Yeah. Oh God. I've tried it. Yes.
Yeah. And a lot
don't
of things
don't
could be
think you're
like,
alone, dear listener. We've
no,
all
no, 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 no,
tried
no. We
walking
all
in a
been
guy's
there.
shoes.
We all been there. And like part of it could be you're in a toxic relationships, which can add more to it,
On top of it.
on
Exactly.
top of it, yes. But it also reflects on her relationships and who is around her, what kind of people around her, if she's not valuing herself, might be people around her who kind of reflect that to her as well, which
Right.
adds
Who
another
are
stress.
taking advantage of and using a lot of times, whether
A
intentionally or
lot.
unintentionally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's in that rat race, and something in her deep down knows that this is not the proper way to live my life so I can be fulfilled. So she says she has that intuitive nudge still in her, deep
Mhm.
down.
Yeah,
And
this feeling that it doesn't fit. I know for
yeah.
me, it showed up as, are we there yet? I would ask my husband when I got home from work, are
Mhm.
we there yet? Meaning, are we at retirement age so I can stop doing this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, another good one also, well, good one meaning mentioning this, she wants to appease to other people, like help and show her hero concept that, look,
Yes.
I'm good enough. I can help you. I can help with this situation. But she's burned out and completely like her own emotions are stuffed down,
Mhm.
right? And she's confused about her own situation.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
a
and I know for myself, one of these ways that this showed up for me when I was trying to live as a guy in a guy's world was I always felt like if I could fix everybody else's problems, then I could get some peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. There is the notion of peace that that's a part of a programming, huge one. That when I get that, and it could be not only on material objects, which commonly known, right? I get this house, I get this marriage, I get
Yes.
this.
I'll be happy when.
I'll be happy when. But it
Yes.
also goes on next on the subtle levels, like you said. If I can contribute, if I can, show that my purpose is worth it, or like achieve X, Y, and Z, um, then I'll be happy, then I'll have peace. So that's the biggest lie. And it's not only the lie. The problem is that this kind of a mindset takes a tremendous amount of energy. It
Mhm.
just sucks your energy away. So that's why you can sleep. You can, on a surface still work out and, like eat healthy, but you will even notice that something is missing.
You're not actually remaining healthy.
No, you're not.
Illness and dis-ease
Yeah.
will show up in some form or another because of it's a mental stress point, actually. This I
Mhm.
can't be happy where I am right now. In the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Past and a future, which are not real. And these projected stories that have been given to us by the society, by people around us, by maybe our families when we were growing up. And you're right, they didn't have the recipes for success. So they passed down the recipes that they had, which
Yes.
are go get peace somewhere in the future.
Yeah,
Big lie.
we think there's peace if you have a lot of money, if you have this thing
Yeah.
called success, if you've got the house
Yeah.
and the picket fence and the 2.5
Yeah.
kids.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel some people have to go through it. So actually they see it, that it's not the
Mhm.
case. But there's so many multiple cases that actually talk about that, right? Like I've got this, I got successful, I got famous, and it got worse even in some
Yeah,
cases.
it becomes even more apparent that happiness is not at that destination.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where
Happiness
is
is not
happiness, right?
happiness is not definitely some objective experience. It's we were believed that, and it's dangerous. Think about it. That I attach my happiness how things are moving in the world.
Yeah, to
Uh,
some external set of circumstances
yeah,
that
which we
I
can't
only have
control.
influence over at best. Yes.
Yeah, which we totally can't control because to me, still life is a mystery. I would never say, "Oh my God, I figured it out."
I wish.
Yeah, it would be
When you get
nice.
the owner's manual, let me know.
Yeah, it would be nice to have the formula. I thought I did at some point,
Yeah.
and then something happens like, nope. I'm
Nope,
not
nope,
making
it's pretty clear
conclusions.
that was not it. So what are some practical steps that someone can take, a woman can take to start undoing some of this brain programming and to start stepping into their worth, their authenticity, their power, their contentment with who they are and their life as it is. I know that one was kind of hard for me because I thought I would lose my ability to like pursue and achieve a goal. It turns out that's not the case. But where do you start? It seems like a tall order.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this part that you're going to lose it. Actually, before I'm going to give the tips, it's the other way around. When you get into alignment, you are moving effortlessly through the doing process as well. So the first one I would say, slow down.
Slow
Not
down to go fast.
Yes, not only on physical level, which I actually teach my clients. I talked about it in the book. Practice, like if you need to walk towards your fridge at night, like or in the morning, notice how you're pacing. Where are you rushing? Where are you running? We have this unjustified rushing and running all the time. Slow down physically and slow down mentally the thought processes, the lies that the little voice is feeding you. And for that, you need to find everyday space at the beginning. I prefer to do it in the morning, have done it for many years. You can meditate, you can just call it a quiet space when you spend time to yourself, like date with
You
yourself.
can call it prayer, however
You can call
it
it prayer.
fits
Yes, you
into
can
your
call it
concept
talking
of the
to
world.
God.
Yes.
Yes. And just settle in and remove all of the external, devices, phone, like put it in a different room completely. And you will notice that the silence makes you uncomfortable at first.
Well,
Because
and I noticed the first time I tried this, the head noise got just crazy.
yeah. Think about it when we go to the stores or we go shopping, or restaurants, there's always music. Have you thought about why? Because um, most people, they freak out when it's silent. Like,
Mm,
oh, this is an awkward silence. I don't know what to do. Like, makes us uncomfortable. And from the marketing standpoint, that's, people, so they don't think about their problems. We need to give them
Oh,
noise
okay.
so they continue to
Happy,
shop and consume.
happy, non confrontational noise.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. Like life is good. And yes, I enjoy that as well. But if you can find balance with this, when you give yourself space in the morning, start with 10 minutes, increase it by a minute each day. If it's hard for you, start with 5 minutes if you're completely a beginner. And just bring a lot of self-awareness. Without self-awareness, we really cannot go further, like of your thoughts, of
Yeah.
your bodily sensations, how fast you walk. When you do something, why do you do it? Ask yourself,
Yeah.
why am I grabbing, like, doing something at this point? Does it make sense, or
Right.
it's my conditioning?
And it might feel kind of awkward because we're trained to like never be still and silent,
Absolutely. It's gonna
especially
it's gonna
with
feel
like the
uncomfortable.
smartphones and everything today. There's always like something that's vying
Yeah.
for our attention.
Yeah,
So
it's a
if
lot
it
of
feels
stimulation.
awkward, give yourself some grace around it and
Yeah.
just know that the attempt counts.
It's gonna
Don't try to succeed at anything.
Mhm.
Just set the side time aside, sit down, get quiet. As quiet
Yeah,
as you can manage, and
it's
then move on.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because it's I don't think it's going to change your life in a very small incremental ways, which at the beginning it will seem like that, but you're basically shifting into your power because you're not distributing your energy left and right and feeling exhausted because of that. Because,
Yeah. I
to sustain the story constantly in your head and be in that story, that hemorrhaging your energy, that really like you losing a lot of energy. When you are living in a past and a future, you losing your energy.
Yes. Well, and one of the things I do a lot of research and listening to other people's concepts on things. And there's a gentleman that I follow who does, I think his name is Chase Hughes, who did like psyops in the military. And he had a video that I watched today on dealing with manipulative people. And one of the first things he tells you is when they come at you, take a nice deep breath, move into a neutral space, and just let that emotional storm that they're bringing with them, because they do it on purpose, just let it roll over you. Take a deep breath, be in that silent place, because it'll dink with them, first of all, and it'll mess up their manipulative rhythm. But it also puts you in a place where you can have perspective on what's going on, because if they suck you into the emotional storm, you're lost.
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually glad you brought it up because manipulative people, abusive people, in that sense, they are looking uh, for that stream of energy, and your
Yes.
emotional reaction is what feeds them. So they're like, in a way, like parasites, right? Like they
Yeah.
need to evoke that from you so they can feel satisfied. When you master, and actually that would be my next step, I'm glad you brought it up. It's neutrality. It's
Mm.
practicing neutrality. Whether something good or bad is happening in your life, without labeling it good and bad, can you just be the observer? Just simply observe all of my reactions, all of my thoughts, bodily sensations, anger, impatience, frustration, whatever it may be. And when your neutrality is key, when you stay into that space, when you cannot be swayed left or right, this is the power that is sensed, like I spoke earlier. When you walk into the room, it is sensed by many people
Absolutely.
because
That
there's no
I don't
attachment.
care particularly how this interaction comes out. I'm good,
Mm.
whether it goes the quote
Yeah.
unquote desired way or whether it does not go the desired way. I'm good either way. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not having attachments at the moment.
Yeah.
And you know you're worth it, you're worthy, and you're doing it for yourself. And whatever the outcome is, you're going to gain the experience. I always say it's always the experience that you cannot buy experience, certain experiences, life that you go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So some things you just have to
priceless.
go through.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, So it's a very empowering place to be in the neutrality, in a slowdown mode, in a sense of observation
Yeah.
of everything that is taking place. Because think about it, if you observing your thought, you let's say your very negative narrative, you are not that. You are
Yeah.
that which is seeing that. So how can it be you? The problem is when we are caught up in the world, there is identification with that
Yes.
thought and the story. And once we go into identification mode, that's it. That's when we don't have energy, we don't feel happy, we're depressed, and so on.
It took me a long time to recognize the stories that I was telling myself. When I
Mhm.
was young, I used to think, well, there are some things that are just good and some things that are just always bad, and there's no other way to look at it. But as I've matured and grown and had more experiences, I've discovered that whether something is quote unquote good, we label it as good or we label it as bad, has to do with the story that we're telling about it,
Mhm.
much
Absolutely.
more than the actual absoluteness of whatever that event was.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of times, looking back on things that at the time I had told the story, this is horrible or this is terrible, it was actually the door, the opening to something that was absolutely amazing that followed.
Mm. Yeah.
But at the time, oh, it hurt. It
Mm-hmm.
sucked sideways. I
Yeah.
was not happy about it. Um, and so I've learned to take a more neutral position as things are coming down. things that,
Mm.
you see it coming at you and it's like the headlight on a train coming down the tunnel towards you. It's like, maybe, maybe it is, maybe it's not. And so we're going to observe, we're going to take what seems to be the appropriate and logical steps in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I deliberately choose to disengage from the awfulizing stories that I would have told myself in the past.
That's very powerful. I'm sure that really changed how you feel, how much peace you feel in your life, right?
Yeah. And I guess on a side note, the thing I will say is it takes a lot of practice
Yes,
to
because
get
we're
to that
breaking a
point.
lot, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're in a circumstance right now that is challenging to you, go ahead and have that emotional reaction. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're all going to be human regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But put a timer on it. Okay.
Mm.
Have the reaction and then go, okay, now I'm going to step back and try and look at this more objectively. I'm going to try and look at it as though it's happening to somebody else or take another position that allows me to gain some more perspective on it. If I'm looking back on this 10 years from now, what does that maybe look like?
I love that. I just want to quickly say there is a beautiful strategy that I call zoom out. And like you said, 10 years from now, 5 years, a year even from now, zoom out, see the full picture. Because when we're zoomed in, it seems like a big deal.
Yeah.
And in sometimes it could be when we're going to take action. But when you zoom out, you're like, oh, there is a relief. Yeah,
Yes. And there is always a way through it, around it, under it. It's just when you're in the middle, the thick of the trees, it's hard to see in that moment. But when you zoom
absolutely.
out, not only does it drop the stress, but it also allows you a space of additional resourcefulness,
Hmm.
options and alternatives that perhaps you weren't able to previously consider.
Yeah.
I like this. So we are up on our second break already. And all of you playing along at home, grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, go to leadershippitfallquiz.com. And when we come back, we're going to discuss a little bit about leadership animals and the pros and the cons of the different ones, specifically Jane's leadership animal. So hang with us. We'll be right
Can't
back
wait.
from the break.
Oh, shout it loud, but we'll hear. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am here with Jane Novak, and we are getting ready to talk about her leadership animal and what some of the pros and the cons of her particular leadership style are. Before I swing into that, I want to kind of wrap on our practical steps for stepping into those feelings of self-worth, of purposefulness, of confidence, of authority, of authenticity. We mentioned taking peaceful moments at the start of the day, however you want to call those, whether it's meditation or prayer or just headspace for yourself. And we talked about moving into emotional neutrality as often as we can. Are there any other tips that we should start cultivating early in this process to really start to flip the script on some of the stuff we were into as girls?
Right. Um, I would say what helps me a lot is connecting daily at this point with nature.
Mm.
That's something that really changed. And I started running recently, and I do a lot of hikes and just exploring new places, new trails here in Florida. It's beautiful, always great weather. But being in nature, especially around water, for some people, it might be the element that they might be craving. Um, Without the phone, preferably. I know
Yeah,
we want
exactly.
it sometimes for the music, but completely to be in a place that can actually
Yeah.
nurture you, remind you of the stillness. and remind you, just when you look at the tree, there is this energy of stillness. And touch the tree, hug the tree, and or just go lay down on the grass, ground yourself with the earth, feel that energy. What kind of different sensations are there? Your mind will actually start working against you at this moment. It will be saying, but we have things to do which are more important.
Mm-hmm.
Be observant of all of that. But nature really, long exposure to nature over a period of time does wonders.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned to do to counter that voice is to kind of put a bubble around it, right? I make an appointment with myself. It's like,
Mm,
yes, there are no other commitments I need to be attending to right now. It's like
yeah.
being at the dentist or the doctor's office. You have to be present in that moment for what's happening there.
Yeah.
This is the same sort of thing. So draw some boundaries around that space for yourself, and that helps to counter that, well, you should be doing something different voice. It's like, no, this is what's on the schedule, this is what we're doing.
Absolutely. I call
Yeah.
it a date with myself.
Yes.
Ah, that's my favorite. I'm like, when you connect that, you can even connect to your inner child. It's like, would you like to go for lunch, dinner? What do you feel like doing
Let's
today?
go play for a little bit. Yeah,
Let's
we'll
go
chase
play.
butterflies in the
We
park. We'll
forgot how
hug a
to play.
tree. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the things that I find. I have a very busy brain. I think this is very common with intelligent people,
Mhm.
particularly because we get so many rewards around, oh, you're so smart and you're doing the thing and you're solving the
Mm,
right. And so it tends to like draw you way into your head, and you forget that you have a body, and the body doesn't like that. It gets stressed out, it gets diseased. There's all kinds of stuff that goes wrong
yeah.
when you're all up in your head and you're never down in your body. And so one of the things that really helps me what to pull myself out of that head is not to just to go out and wander around in nature, but like full body contact with nature. I literally will like put my back up against a tree all the way down my body and
Mm-hmm.
just lean there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will grab a pretty rock that I like and I will hold it in my hands, and it helps to like
Mm,
yank me out of my head and pull me more into my body, into my physicality, where I can notice things before they get screamingly bad. Like
yeah, I
the
love that.
burning in the pit of your stomach, that's the budding beginnings of an ulcer, or the tension
Yeah.
in your shoulders that means you're going to have to go get a massage or a chiropractic adjustment. You can
Yeah.
start to catch that sort of thing earlier and stretch and do preventative things
Mm-hmm.
because you've
Mm-hmm.
moved into that awareness.
Absolutely. And your body will crave more gentle movements. Let's say if you work out, that's great, but you will be, like you said, stretching, or, we hold a lot of tension. Just a little test you guys can do in the lower part of our face, in our jaw, in our, chin. If you notice, like it's
Mm-hmm.
always, there is some tightness there that goes through the neck and into the
Yep.
chest. And that's where we carry that conditioning. So just being aware of that and relaxing, just one breath and just relaxing the lower part and the neck and bringing awareness into the chest area, all of a sudden there's just like your eyes even feel different, your
Yeah.
face expression might be more relaxed, which actually can help you to go to that interview as well. That might be something.
Yeah, you'll have a
Yeah.
more genuine smile
Yeah.
because all of the smile muscles will be available for that instead of this
Yeah.
like clenched jaw kind of action.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's how your authenticity will be coming out too. Hmm.
I love that. So let's talk leadership animals for a minute. I created this quiz to kind of give clients insight into how are they engaging with the world, with the company, with their team, and what are some of the positives of that, or what are some of the things where you're accidentally maybe causing yourself some trouble without realizing it. And so there are 4 leadership animals. If you've just taken the quiz, I'm glad that you did that, because now you know what your current leadership animal is. It's not something you're necessarily married to forever. It's just your current style that you're using. So a lot of
Mm.
times what you'll find is you will evolve. You may still feel like you're back there, being an octopus or a golden retriever, but you've evolved a different direction.
Mm.
And so the four animals are the golden retriever. That's the people pleaser. Yes, 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 yes. I will do it all and I will make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
There is the octopus, which is to put not too fine a point on it, kind of the control freak, the one that's up in every aspect of whatever is going on to make sure that the details are exactly the way you want it. And then there is the lone wolf. Just leave me alone, let me do my thing. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's stuff. I will just do my thing and I want to not be involved in those other headaches. And then there is the renegade rhino, uh, that tends to be very confident, very focused on what it is they want and where they're going and what they're getting out of life, which can be a very, what I want to say, it can be a very masculine energy, certainly, but you can also do it in a very feminine style.
Mm.
And some of the pitfalls of the renegade rhino are that a lot of times they don't inform people around them that this is what we're doing. Or if they do, it's like, this is what we're doing. And I don't want to hear anything against the direction we're going or feedback
Yeah.
or that sort of thing. And that can lead to problems, especially when you're in a team kind of environment. So talk to us. What is your current leadership animal?
Well, that's the rhino. Hold it. I got the rhino.
You've
Yeah.
got the rhino. Did any of those earlier descriptions also kind of resonate with you? Do you feel like maybe
Yeah,
some of those
definitely.
animals are in your leadership past someplace?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and what you said that actually pretty much resonated, and
So which earlier animal resonated with you before the rhino?
it's interesting from the ones that you mentioned.
Yeah,
Um, I've never been, I guess, a control freak, but it might come up somewhere when I'm serious about something, something needs to be done, or being stern with my children sometimes, something. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a little bit of that. People pleaser, I think I used to be long, long time ago.
yeah.
There was a little bit of that. I forgot the octopus. What was that about?
The octopus was the micromanager, the control freaky aspect of
Oh, okay, okay. So
I
there
gotta have
was
my
one.
tentacles in everything.
Yeah, yeah. What else was there?
The lone wolf.
Oh,
Just
the
let me
lone
do my
wolf.
thing. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. I've had that stage, and I know people like that actually. That if you don't evolve from that, it can be kind of like a very isolating journey, and they cannot collaborate with other people really well. So when I was in my awakening process, I isolated myself, but it was like more of a natural process of isolation. So yeah, I had moments like, don't touch me, I'm on my own, because like I know the way I operate, and I work with people sometimes it was frustrating as well to work
Yes.
with, so that from that experience I'm like, I'd rather do it like, I'm not going to wait for this person to do it, for this person to do it. And then I was burnt out, of course.
Yes.
I had
Yes.
to really allocate that back, but find people that, again, it goes back to self-worth and feeling differently. So you attract different people who are like, yeah, I can do that. Let me help you.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I've noticed with like the golden retriever or the octopus or the lone wolf is that burnout becomes a very real thing.
Yeah.
Because with the golden retriever, there's this lack of boundaries. A lot of times you say yes when you know in your heart you should be saying no. You're already
Yeah.
overcommitted and all of the things, right? And then with the octopus, it's extremely mentally draining to have your
Mhm.
brain on every single one of those little details and trying to get people to make exactly the moves that you would make, as opposed to just giving them a real clear definition of what success looks like. It'll look like this. You'll achieve this. It's measurable in this way. and just let them move how they need to move. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
there's a
agree.
lot of like mental energy that goes into the octopus. And then the lone wolf, as you mentioned, you're in it by yourself. When
Yeah,
you need something, that there isn't anybody because you've pushed all the rest of the pack away.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you
And
struggle with that too.
and then you struggle with that. Exactly. Of the four, my favorite is the rhino because I think in many ways it's most adaptive.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you've come through those earlier stages of the golden retriever, of the micromanaging octopus, this sort of thing, you bring a lot of those skills with you that helps to soften that rhino side and make that rhino
Mm.
more leadership friendly, more of a pack leader than it would be if you started as a rhino.
Right. I love that. Goes back to no experience is wasted. Everything
Amen.
happened as it was supposed to be happening. You can extract these gems and actually use it for your growth and help others if you're a
Yeah,
leader.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So that is our leadership animal moment for today.
Mhm.
Um, what has your experience being a rhino been like compared to like the earlier golden retriever style?
It's incredible because you don't question yourself so much anymore, only when it makes sense to question yourself for your own feedback. Um, it's just no attachments. There's a lot of peace, but there's also a lot of I got this. And if it's not gonna happen, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you're a lot of the moment you are in a present moment and you trust the process. But if somebody came across and something went the other way direction, you address it right away. You don't shy away, you don't wait. You're like, okay, setting the boundaries right there. This and this and this, it didn't work out as it was supposed to be. How can we create a different solution or next?
Or
Like it,
next. Exactly.
yeah, yeah, it became simple, how
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. The process became very streamlined.
I like that. I think the neutrality aspect of it and the peace around the outcome probably makes you a much more comfortable rhino to work with because
Mm.
the typical rhino is it will be this way and they tend
Yeah.
to seg over from power into force. I'm going to make it stuff it in that round peg into that square hole. And so I love that we've circled back to the neutrality, the centeredness, and knowing that, sometimes it is not to be, and that's okay. And then we move to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that. So we are down to the last minute of our show here. Uh, did you bring a gift for the guests? I'm trying to remember.
A digital gift.
If there was a digital gift, it's in the show notes. We'll put that right there. Go check
Yeah,
out the show
yeah.
notes for the digital gift. And thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Zofia. Thank you for having me. I really had a blast.
And thank you to all you wonderful listeners out there. All you ladies, I do this to support all of us in making the world a more equitable place, a truly equitable place, not just some label that the government slaps on it, and
Mhm.
putting us in a position to make our dreams happen, regardless of how the playing field is set up. And if you have any suggestions of topics you want to see me take on, people you think I should be talking to, books I should be talking about, studies, all of those things, I would love to hear from you. You can always comment, respond in the comments, or you can send me an email to askzofia@transformationspace.co. And until next week, go out, be bold, and be amazing.